This is the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
They fought for us, now he'll fight for you. The pursuit of justice and liberty. It's the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
And now, Bob Cordaro.
Great, good morning, everyone. Good to be with you again this Sunday. Well, I guess you already know, Bob Cordaro, I'm your host. And today we're starting off with an annual event that I've been familiar with. It's been going on forever. We're going to have her tell us all about it. But then somebody else I have known forever, Gail Cicerini. She's one of the co-chairs for this Rotary of the Abingtons event. And it is an extraordinary event. But first, Gail, welcome.
Thanks, Bobby. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to be with you. It was just something that's worth promoting.
Okay.
Tell us, if you know, and to the extent you know, how did this all start? It's such an institution.
Well, I'm sure you knew the man who started it, Guy Kelly. And I got roped into helping him. And that's about 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And of course, Guy is retired down in South Carolina, having a wonderful time. And we have carried on the event. The event is very important to us, but it's also just a piece of the Rotary Club of the Abingtons.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit. Let's take a couple seconds just to talk about what are Rotarians? What's the Rotary Club thing?
Rotary is a service organization throughout the world in many, many, many countries. And it's service above self. Yeah. And so there are some incredible projects throughout the world, and we get to hear about them on a regular basis. Here locally, the Rotary Club of the Abingtons is very well known for their sponsorship of the fireworks every year up at the middle school in Clark Summit. And it's a huge operation, and it's also a very costly one. The cost of the event is somewhere between $18,000 and $20,000 per year. And but it's tremendous. There's thousands of people who come, food trucks, etc. And it's a good fireworks show. It's long.
You've been around the community quite a bit. You've always been involved in public service, Gail. And it's natural that you're here talking about this Taste of the Abingtons event.
Yeah. Well, I'm not from your area, but I've been here 53 years. I came here.
A carpetbagger, huh? I
am a carpetbagger from Alexandria, Virginia. But anyway, I've been involved with Rotary since 1990. I was actually sent there by the Waverly Community House because when I was hired as their director, it was the first time ever that the job description said, open the comm to the public. And so they thought, go to Rotary, become involved.
Let's talk about the event. Taste of the Abingtons. Give us the who, what, where, when, and why.
Okay, well, my wonderful co-chair, who didn't realize I was on the air today, is Ginny Johnson. And she is the manager of FNCB Clark's Green. And she's great to work with. She and I worked on this last year. And so we will be situated at the Country Club of Scranton for the second year in a row. They've been very good to us. And we will take over the ballroom, the sun porch, and also the exterior porch, which is all tented in.
And vendors come and...
Vendors come. We go after...
local restaurants.
Oh, yeah. We're looking for restaurants, breweries, and wineries. And the breweries and wineries can give samples, and they can sell their product as long as it's unopened, okay? And then the restaurants, they don't have to provide anything except about 300 bite-sized pieces. We give them tables, chairs, linens, flowers, PR, here we are. So it's a wonderful opportunity for restaurants old and new. And at this point, we already have a half a dozen signed up. And we try to give them newsprint, TV, radio, anything that'll promote the event. We sell tickets for $30. There are 3 banks that are selling them, FNCB, PS, and also at Classic Properties. You can buy tickets there, and Eventbrite.
Now, that is October 22nd.
Yep. It's a Sunday. It's 4 to 7 p.m.
Country Club of Scranton.
Yep. And if you're a vendor, we welcome you to come at 1 o'clock, and we help you set up. We've been aligned with the Boy Scout Troop 160 for over 75 years. So we help the vendors unload, load, etc. And we also have, with Rotary, you have a high school interact group that's part of Rotary. And in some cities, they have a Rotaract, which is college level. So those interact kids come and help us too.
Nice. So the 22nd, Scranton Country Club, Taste of the Abingtons. Gail Cicerini, thank you.
Bobby, thank you.
Road Scholar Transport is proud to sponsor Camp Freedom, where veterans go to heal and find peace. Go to roadscholar.com/Camp Freedom today and tell our veterans what their sacrifice means to you. Your message may be chosen for display on Road Scholar Transport trailers to be seen by thousands of people. Show our veterans how much you care. Send them your message today. Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
So our Power Brunch Player of the Week this week is a guy I met a little while ago, but I'd heard of for years, Bill Rosado. And I just thought the stunning array of businesses he's involved with, I became familiar with him, as many of you have, through his auto dealerships, but it's so much more. And in fact, I've never done this, as you know. I just want to read the businesses. I don't normally need notes. He's got the Rosado group of dealerships, which includes Milford Chrysler Dodge Jeep, Dixon City Hyundai, Performance Kia down in Music, Lehighton Kia, Broadheadsville Chevrolet, Milford Hospitality, another company, the Great Fauchère Hotel, the Tom Quick Inn, the Apple Valley Village, La Posada Hotel and Authentic Mexican Restaurant, Forest Hall Historic Building and Exhibit Hall, other commercial real estate, and then Rosado Aviation, which includes 5 different aircrafts, a dry leasing business. He may have to tell us what that is. And he has real estate holdings in Yucatan, Mexico. And by way of further introduction, born in Mérida, Yucatan, Mexico, 3 children, 7 grandchildren, brought to the U.S. by his older brother in 1974 to, of all places, Milford, PA. And I just know that he does so much and he's so involved in the community. I said, we've got to have Bill Rosado on. I'm just fascinated with him, and I never had time to pin him down to find out more about him, and we get to do that today. Bill Rosado, welcome.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, Bill, let's go back to your upbringing in Yucatan. Tell us about that.
I'm the youngest of 5. My older brother was 20 years older than I was. When my father passed away when I was 2, so I really never met him. But my brother ended up marrying his pen pal from Canarsie, New York. And at a certain time, he moved to the United States, and they ended up in the Pocono Mountains, which would be in Milford, PA. And I was the youngest. I was 14 years old, and everybody was out of the house. My mom was I was an older woman at that point. So I came to visit a couple of times, and my sister-in-law, my God rest her soul, always told me that, you should really think about staying here. You're more American than you think. So at the age of 15, in 1974, I decided to stay. She said, give me 3 months. If you don't like it, you can go back. And it was hard when you're 15 years old.
Sure.
The food was different. I couldn't speak the language. You dressed differently.
Were you going to school or was it summer?
No, I started going to school here. And
without being able to speak English?
Yeah.
There was no provisions back then.
Not a bit. But I have to tell you, it was an amazing experience. I mean, in Milford, Pennsylvania, Delaware Valley High School, I graduated. Everyone treated me the same, equally. There was never I never felt any prejudice at all in an area like that. People were wonderful.
Amazing. Well, what do you do after high school?
Well, I got out of high school and I was maybe not the correct word, but I was a gifted soccer player. Like all Mexicans, I think back then, we played a lot of soccer. Hardly anybody played soccer here. So I had some scholarships and I had some offers to the pros. So I went to Keystone Junior College for 1 semester. I really hated school, to be honest with you. So I at the point I had a girlfriend. I ended up getting married, and then I started selling cars in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
You were just a car salesman in Allentown. How did you find that job?
In the paper, there was a little ad in the paper, and my ex-father-in-law, who passed away years ago, said, "You know, Matt, you seem to have pretty good personality. He used to be a car salesman. Maybe you should try it." He was right. I mean, it was a great introduction to the business world.
What type of cars were you selling?
Dodge. In 1980, I think it was 1981. In Allentown, Pennsylvania.
So this is pre-K car or K car?
It was about the same time, and I was maybe a week before the K car came in because we had very old, Aspens and cars.
Because they were all disasters.
Oh, it was terrible.
This is when Iacocca was trying to turn it around.
But in some ways, it was probably the best way to learn the business because it was a challenge, and they couldn't get anybody to be a car salesman. And not knowing any better, I embraced the job. So I raised my family and. I was very blessed. I loved it. I loved the job right away.
How long did you sell cars down there?
For about 2 years, and then I went towards Philly, got a management job. And not too long after that, in 1989, I was able to buy my first dealership. I mean, I really love the car business, yeah.
Where was your first dealership?
It was in Lehigh, Pennsylvania. It was a Chrysler Plymouth dealership. And from there, I grew into a Chevy store and then a store in Milford, Pennsylvania. I got into the Hyundai business, Kia business. Down the road, I had a couple of Ford dealerships. We had 12 stores at one time. But during the recession, it made me reevaluate things, and we ended up keeping it to 5 stores.
And at the same time, you decided, I'm going to get into some other things.
Well, along the way, I mean, I think sometimes, and I say this all the time, I was blessed to be here first, without any hesitation. I'll say I've always labeled that the fact that I'm a Mexican by birth, but I'm an American by choice, and of course, a human being by an act of God, but the fact is that I was amazed of the opportunity in this country. And I'm saying even as a young kid that I could make money when I was in high school. I never needed for anything. So the opportunities were there. And I took interest to many other areas of business. I mean, certainly the hospitality business. Always been in real estate, here and there, putts around with the music business for a while.
Really?
Yes. And
what kind?
Well, we used to have a concert series that was called Summer Heat Concert Series. Back maybe 14 years ago, over at the Cultural Center here, I brought Maroon 5. This is right before they blew up. And then, of course, now they became monsters. Now forget it. You can't touch them. They're so expensive anymore. But that's one of the things that we did for a while. We brought in some. We had concerts. Willie Nelson in a couple of times. I mean that career was. That was just short-lived, but it was secondary to everything else I was doing.
Yeah.
And I started the airplane business is probably one that I kind of bumped into it. My younger daughter had moved to Delaware, and to see my grandkids drive like 5 hours. So I found a small airplane, and somebody asked me, "Hey, would you ever be interested in renting it?" So I learned what dry leasing is, which is you literally yourself can actually rent the airplane for me, and you're responsible for the expenses and so forth. So then from there, I started, got a bigger plane. So now we have five airplanes, and but parts of it, of course, is personal. I mean, in business, I had to fly quite a bit to Mexico. Once, it's some for personal use, but we've made a good business out of it, actually.
Yeah, and that was an interesting thing. You said American by choice, Mexican by birth, but you've still kept considerable ties. Yes. With home, and you're there a lot. Like, so you haven't completely left. You really appreciate that culture.
Yeah, I absolutely. Actually, I live in the same house where I was born. I mean, the tree where my mother, back in those days, we didn't really have a home. was just literally just cardboard walls that my brothers had built. And my mom was, in her 40s when she had me. And I was born near a tree. There was no doctor. I mean, the midwife came, and there I was, Yeah. So no, I never. And I absolutely love the. I have a lot of family there, and I love the culture. I really do. I'm a Mayan Indian, and I love my culture. There's so much to it.
Well, go into that a little bit. It's when you talk about discrimination and how these things are. The Indians were discriminated against a bit in Mexico by the Spanish.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think people don't always know that Mexico is composed of many tribes, but of course the Aztecs were in the north. They were the fighters and the ones in Mexico City. The Mayan Indians were very much into the stars, building pyramids, having better quality water, food. So they were very, very peaceful, and it probably didn't take too long to take them over.
Yeah.
But there's no bitterness at all. I think we it was so many years ago, and the influence of the Spanish people is enormous in my city. I live in a city that's of about 2 million people, and you see the architecture is very Spanish. It's very,
was it that large when you grew up?
No, when I left, there was 260,000 people. And then after I left, people moved in. There's 2.3 million people now.
Oh, man. It's a big metro.
It's a very big city, and the crime rate, I'm really happy to say, it's almost zero in that city. We're about 3.5 hours inland from Cancun, but it's a very peaceful city. Very, I highly recommend it. It's a trip of a lifetime to go to a place like that.
Yeah.
It's 580 years old, the city.
So Bill Rosado finds himself in Milford, Pennsylvania. It's a bit of a culture shock.
It was.
Very different than where you came from.
Yes.
But you thrived on that. You didn't shrink from it or worry about it. You thrived.
A lot of things I loved immediately. First of all, as crazy as it may sound, I love the weather. Because I lived in a place where it's hot all the time. I came here, it was May 21st of 1974. 3:30 in the afternoon. So, it was still a little chilly out, and it was beautiful. I just couldn't believe that the weather was so. I've been here before, but never in that season. So it was just it was so different to what I grew up with. But I mean, I guess I've been educated enough by my brother, who was he was like my father basically, telling me that to first be very patient. It's going to take a little time to learn the language, but this is really where I will have the ability to really learn a lot. And he was right. I mean, he taught me the tremendous amount of how to be courteous and so forth. But the biggest thing about that I did see is that in the 70s especially, there was a different America.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to see in the past 50 years. And actually maybe the blessing to see changes. Some not so good. Obviously, right now we're going through a rough time, but in those days, I remember the ambition. If you had ambition, the country was there to rally behind. Nothing was free. You worked for it; it was yours, and no one could take it from you. There was no thought back in the 70s, as far as I could remember, of equality being misunderstood. Equality was an opportunity for everybody, and that is the one thing this country, I believe, as an immigrant. I applaud it. The opportunity. That's really all they promise you. That's all they need to promise, And we had equal opportunity for sure.
One of the things that getting to know you has provided me, you've got a rock-ribbed optimism. You just look at things and say, we could handle that. We could do that. That could get done. That had to have got you into trouble in business, but it also must be the driving force behind your success.
I think I was blessed with let's just say if it was a 10-mile race, I started in the ninth mile, So, coming from a place, and when I say we were poor, it's certainly not.
You're talking about cardboard size.
We had, when I was a young kid, we ate 3 times a week. There was no, a little bit of roof in the house. There was no beds. There was just a hammock for everybody, basically. So, but if I had to have a childhood, I want the same one. I think a lot, the difficulties of growing up and not knowing at the time when you're a kid, you don't know. I mean, everybody else is poor. So what do you know, right?
Yeah.
But that is probably has given me.
But you were real poor. You weren't working class poor.
Oh, no. We were misery.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, my mother used to leave the house with an avocado and get an egg and then get that egg. I mean, she had to work every day. I mean, we had very, very limited income. I mean, my brother was doing what he could, but it was very difficult. But, I think the optimism comes from that, I mean, coming with that and having this opportunity and so forth. Yeah, there's really nothing, as long as that we have our health and, family, what else do we need,
Yeah. So, Bill, you come and you're starting to get in the car business. Was it a big step? Was it different? What were the challenges you found? Now you're the owner. You're not a salary guy. This is yours. You're responsible for every aspect of the operation.
I was blessed, like I said, to start in a very difficult time in the car business. In the 80s, when Lee Iacocca bought $1 billion, which back then $1 billion was, never heard of, right? And I mean, I remember the interest rate, the first time that they came out with this special financing, 17.9% financing, 24-month financing, and people were lined up, right? So we're complaining about what we have now, but it was a challenge. But so, to be honest with you, again, it was a shock. Not necessarily because I didn't know any better. Yeah. This is what I got. So I got to figure out a way.
And you're comfortable. You're a manager. You could stay there and make that your career instead of going to buy a dealership.
When I went towards Philadelphia and I became a manager, you're right. It was a difficult decision to make. We had making very, very good money at that point. I was only 26, 27 years old. My kids were already born, beautiful home. But I always wanted to have my own business. I did see that the next step, logical step, would be to grow. And I had some great people want to come work with me. So it was a difficult moment to sit down and explain to my ex-wife at the time we were married. We're going to sell this beautiful house and move to Lehigh, Pennsylvania, and I really don't know where we're going to live. But it worked. Man, she had faith that we would do it, and obviously it worked out.
Yeah. When does your move to Northeast Pennsylvania occur?
Well, Northeast to Scranton?
Yeah.
I would say thereabouts 2006, my younger daughter. I mean, I had a dealership here for a while. I had actually 4 stores here one time. So I would go back and forth. But in 2006, 2007, my younger daughter started going to the University of Scranton. And at that point, we had an empty nest. And being in Milford, Pennsylvania, was starting to get a little boring, And my ex-wife wanted to explore some of her talents and so forth. So we came out this way. And but I was very familiar with the area. Yeah. So it was an easy fit for us, and I absolutely love it here.
Yeah.
People ask me what I think of Scranton. I said, don't move there. It's terrible. I love it the way it is.
I want to keep it to myself.
Change it.
All right. So car dealerships, you build them up, you get out of some, you stay in others. What makes you say, I can run a hotel? How does this happen?
Well, Milford, Pennsylvania has been very dear to my heart. I mean, I love the town.
Beautiful little town.
It absolutely is. And there was a moment in life as a kid that you start, donating to this, that, in nonprofit organizations. Said, how can I make a difference? A lot of people left that area because there were no jobs in that area. And what I mean by that, we're not talking Silicon Valley jobs. There was no second jobs that people could have, or a spouse saying, you know what, I'm going to work, 30 hours a week, bring a little bit of extra money home. There was nothing for young people to do. Yeah. So about 4 years ago, right before there was the pandemic, I get the brilliant idea to buy the Town Quick, which was the first one. And then, bought the 4th share, and the theater, the Milford Theater, redid it from the ground up. And it rivals most beautiful theaters out there right now.
What do you show there? What?
Oh, we have this weekend. We had Southside John and the Asbury. It was unbelievable.
Oh, it's a live performance.
It's a live performance. Yeah, and not just we show some movies, but we've
Southside
had
John.
Kevin Bacon was there. We've had some great live shows. Great shows.
How about that? 250
people, but it's got its own liquor license, so it's got a bar. It's a great place to have fun.
Yeah,
so. And then, being around the town, it just caught on fire. And I have a beautiful bar called Jive. It's a very youthful bar. So I noticed.
Where's that? Is that
it's right across from Fort Share. Right, it was an old body shop that was on my ex-wife's family, and years ago we bought it. So I turned into a big bar there. But one thing about, honestly, we got a tremendous New York influence. Nothing good happens at 11 o'clock at night, after 11 o'clock at night. So the town is still very peaceful. Yeah. And so we've been able to grow in a way in which I think is controlled in a way, okay? In Forest Hall, which is it was owned by the Pinchot family. That's where the forestry department of the United States started. Mm-hmm. That's turned into an exhibit, an art exhibit. And it's just something to see. I mean, if you go into a website and Milford Hospitality, you see the different exhibits that we have. They're all, again,
I've been hearing about this hotel Fort Share.
Hotel Fort Share is amazing.
Yeah.
It was redone by a couple of people. One of them, Dick Snyder, he passed away about 4 years ago, and his partner was the mayor of the town, John Strube. And after he passed away, Sean wanted to get out of the business, I think. The building was brought down to the studs and redone. And it was one of the first hotels in the United States. I mean, Charlie Chaplin stayed there, yeah. Frank Sinatra, all the big stars stayed in that. And if you walk in the place, it's a 4.5-star hotel. It is dropped. It's stunning. No credit to me. I bought it. It was already done. But it is just, I honestly, the town itself Milford is about 2 miles of flat surface. So the topography of the town with the beautiful maple trees, you can walk around that town for hours and not get tired. And at our age, we got to work on being tired.
You kept interests and developed further interests in Yucatan.
Yes.
What's the nature of those properties?
Quite a bit of beachfront property. In the peninsula, it's got some beaches that hardly anybody's ever walked through, to be honest with you. So in a very small fishing village that only has 600 people, it's something out of the movie, out of a movie actually. Mm-hmm. I bought a lot of real estate right on the beach, and I have a home there. I have several homes that we Airbnb, and it does create a little bit of jobs for people to clean and so forth. So there in the city, I do buy a lot of homes, fix them up and sell them. I got quite a bit of commercial.
Is it a labor of love more than business proposition?
Yeah, it's not about the profit. Yeah, honestly, it's not about the profit.
Like I'm home. This is my home. I want to invest, but I also want to succeed right here.
And I think part of this, I'm blessed that I have all the businesses, you know what I mean? So I'm not just worried about if I can't sell that house next month, how am I going to, what am I going to do with this? I would not get myself in a situation like that. Because a lot of the real estate in Mexico it's on a cash only basis. Because the mortgages there are not necessarily American made.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all right. So in Mexico, you left when you're 15.
Yes.
You've kept ties.
Yes.
But you had to reestablish them. Do they consider you Norteamericano?
Well, for a Mayan Indian, I'm actually physically very big.
Yeah.
Most Mayan Indians are like 5 feet tall. So people always think that I'm from northern Mexico, or maybe even Cuban.
Yeah.
But interesting enough, a lot of people, because I live in a very old neighborhood. I did not leave my neighborhood.
Yeah.
I live in Center City, and I love being there. But some of the older people, and my mom passed away years ago, but she knew everybody. And some of the old people say, "Hey, so how you doing? How's school?" Like
they thought you never left.
Exactly. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, yeah. It's a lot of the people there feel like I never left.
Because they say you can never go home, but this has worked out.
It does. And I honestly, when there's certain animal instinct, when I get out of the plane, I smell I feel like, oh, well, this is my home turf.
Yeah.
But then when I get here, I say the same thing. So
isn't that great?
Yes.
Well, we got to cut off. We're going to finish with Bill Rosado, and thank you to Rhodes Scholar Transport for always sponsoring this Power Brunch Player of the Week. And we're going to continue with him on BCTV because there's a lot more I want to talk to him about. But for this week on WNEP, we'll see you next week on the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
Road Scholar Transport is proud to sponsor Camp Freedom, where veterans go to heal and find peace. Go to roadscholar.com/Camp Freedom today and tell our veterans what their sacrifice means to you. Your message may be chosen for display on Road Scholar Transport trailers to be seen by thousands of people. Show our veterans how much you care. Send them your message today. Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
So, Bill, we were talking about sort of your two homes.
Yes.
And I think that's a great thing.
It's a great blessing.
You feel, obviously, you're bilingual. You're comfortable speaking and you think in both languages.
Yes. One of the things I learned when I first got here is when you start dreaming in the language, you conquer it. So when I started dreaming in English.
Do you remember what the age was?
I know I was about 15. I was
almost
quickly,
immediately.
Within 4 months. My brother taught me something, with a very good trick. You got to watch a lot of television, he said, because the TV has shown the actual act as well.
Yeah.
And when you're 15, it's a lot easier now. So, but my English and my Spanish are equal. I mean, legal documents and so forth to me, I can read one of them, and so I've been lucky to learn that.
Let's get back to the car business because I've always loved it. I just thought it was the neatest thing in the world because I always loved cars.
Oh, it's great. It's an amazing industry.
How has that evolved, that business? I mean, we're getting to the point where the big three and others are going to try to Elon Musk it and take the dealers out of the process? The
conversation has been around since I think the first dealership was open. Ford tried to do it. Everybody has tried to do it. I think Warren Buffett, about maybe 8 years ago, bought a massive auto group in Arizona, the Van Tile Group. It's got like 170 dealerships. And his view was basically like most of ours. The laws are so protective to the franchise system. But no law is better than money. In the end, what Elon Musk is doing, I applaud him for it, it's got limitations as to how far he's going to grow. There already are other electric vehicle companies that already...
Because they're not sharing resources.
Well, it's also the expense, exactly.
Yeah.
People don't know that when a car is built, the minute they generate a serial number, we have to pay for it. So the manufacturer enjoys our money, and they don't start building the car for a month.
Yeah.
So that the financial assistance we'll give each other is just amazing. Then we buy the cars, and we start paying interest on that car, not the manufacturer.
Yeah.
So I think to grow into the size of the big three, or even, of course, the imports and so forth, I think it's unsustainable for Tesla to do it. They may be the only ones to do it, but all the electric vehicle companies already are starting to talk to dealers because they're not going to try to go that route.
Yeah. Now, among the labels that we started off the program with, you've got Hyundai, you've got Kia. They didn't exist when you started in the auto business.
They did not. No.
So you saw something.
Yes.
Fairly early on. Were you in this market? Were you the first?
1999. In 1999, I looked into Japanese franchises. I never really had much interest in it, but I think I had a small Suzuki dealership for a while. But I saw the South Koreans. I guess I kind of like the underdog a little bit.
Yeah.
The South Koreans, they already gone through the bad product times and so forth. So in 1999, I was offered the franchise here at the Hyundai dealership in Dixon City. Everybody thought I was nuts even looking at it. But I saw them that they wanted, their goal is to be as good, maybe even bigger than the Japanese. So based on that, they are an amazing bunch of people to work with. So then they ended up buying Kia. So what a wonderful thing. So
that's the same company?
Yep.
Hyundai,
yes.
Kia.
Hyundai is.
And Genesis is another label.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, Genesis. Which is that's a turbulent one, and I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, it hasn't really grown as much as they all thought. But I'm happy with Kia and Hyundai and Kia. They're great.
Yeah.
Great product. Great product.
How have relations with the big companies changed and evolved over these many years? But then maybe even more recently, how have they changed?
I think before the Great Recession, there was a certain behavior, and that changed afterwards, of course. I don't want to say that they're more restrictive, but they I don't know that they share as much with the dealer body as they used to. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know, because maybe maybe too much information before it hurt the companies and put them in the position that they were. Although we still don't really know what caused that recession.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll never really understand what did it. But the relationships within the big three, to be honest with you, are in a scale of 1 to 10, they're about a 7 right now.
Well, we're talking to you in the midst of a UAW strike.
Yes.
Which is going to affect product coming to you.
Yes.
But you're also used to product not coming to you because of the COVID crisis.
But I also, we have the South Korean manufacturers.
They're
so
coming.
That's not going to affect us that much. You know, I'm sure this is not good because it comes at a time in which I believe the United States runs on a 5-year cycle of age of cars. I think we're running almost 11 right now. A lot of it because of the shortage of product. And the lack of product, it just makes the prices go up. That being said, though, you balance it out by there are people who bought a car 2 years ago and their trade value is more than what they bought it for new. Yeah. So it kind of balances it out. But inventory is going to be a challenge. And at a point in right now, most countries buy their used cars from the United States. So we don't have that many used cars. We don't have enough new cars. So, you know, maybe the silver lining is the fact that we should be around for a while selling cars.
So you've got a portfolio of businesses that at least seemingly don't have anything to do with the other. The travel, the entertainment, and the automotive. How do you view, do you look at it and say, well, a business is a business. There are basic core principles that I've developed and knowledge, but they are very different in the end. How do you knit them together? Or
they are, but I will say, I think a lot of businessmen will tell you, a business takes the shape of the form of how you are as a businessman. My son is involved in the business, in the hospitality business. My older daughter is very involved in the car business. My younger daughter helps with quite a bit of real estate. So everything we do, even though it is a different business per se, I don't want to say we run it the same way, but there's a lot of what goes into the effort that is the same to us. And we're going to do businesses that we enjoy. I mean, to be honest with you, the hospitality business is an incredibly challenging business.
Oh, yeah.
I do not want to invite many people to it.
You're working when everyone else is enjoying themselves. Let's just start there.
It's like a good friend of mine told me, he said, you know, when you start making money in the hospitality business, he said, you're going to get a free drink after 5 years. That's your first paycheck. He said, that's how it is. It's a challenge, but I like what we're doing. We created 170 jobs in the little town of Milford.
Yeah,
you know, and young people have a place to go. They don't have to travel that much anymore. You know, it seems minimal to people, but even during the recession, during the pandemic, when people were at home, you know, to be able to walk down the street and have a drink, it was or have dinner or watch a show in a town that didn't have that before. It's been really great.
Yeah.
I mean, we really have enjoyed it.
Bill, you're a religious guy.
Yes.
Conservative values. We don't do politics here, but you've seen this country evolve. You've seen it change. Do you still feel comfortable with the values you hold in the United States? Yes.
In fact, anyone who's willing to hear me, I'm willing to share them. Because the values that I learned, you know, in a lot of us religious values, and unfortunately, even Mexico has changed quite a bit.
Yeah,
this liberal behavior is really has taken a bad turn in many ways. Not to say that everything that was there before was right, but I think we have moved too fast on a lot of things that are hurting us.
You have that unique perspective of a successful immigrant. I mean, it is the American story. I mean, you've lived the American dream. You've created the American dream. And that's remarkable these days.
Well, I even sometimes I said to friends, I don't live the American dream. I live the American reality.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is. You know, I'm very, very proud to have gotten to be here, Mom. I really am. And I said, to be an American is, you know, never. But as when you're a kid, you grow up, you don't know, but the value to me, it's very dear to my heart. I'm a Mexican citizen as well, but being an American is it's an amazing feeling.
As you approach, well, you're still too young, but
I'm 64 years old,
so you're still young. As you approach a time when many people are retiring, many people are stepping aside, you don't see a retirement on the horizon for you, do you?
I don't. Honestly, I don't. I do delegate a lot of the work now. Like I said, my son, I have great general managers and so forth. So I'm able to do a lot personally and still keep an eye on the business. But I really love what I do. I really like walking into problems and resolve them. Mm-hmm. I enjoy the success when it's there. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not afraid of something happening because things happen in any business. So I don't know what I would do. It's like like Joe Paterno said, there's only one big event left after you retire, and you don't want that one. So I enjoy doing what I do. All the businesses, it's almost, it looks like a theme after talking to you for a bit. You get into the airplane business, you get into the transportation business. Yes. That has become something that, between share, flight share and all those kinds of things, that has become very important. And people value their time now. We almost backed into this business, to be honest with you. And that's why, I just had a couple of airplanes, and I saw the need to own more airplanes, mm-hmm. and in this system of dry leasing them, because you got a lot of businessmen that sometimes need to go like now. They can't book a flight and sit at an airport and wait because the flight cancellations are killing them and so forth. So we have seen it, and I see a lot of airlines starting to get into the business regional as well. So it's it. How long it's going to last, I don't know, but certainly is that right now it's. It's useful to you, but it's fun also to you. It is. Oh yeah. I do a lot of pleasure trips. I don't go to Mexico always in business. I end up doing something when I'm there, but I do. I go to the city quite a bit. I love watching bullfights. So it's an amazing sport. People condescend towards it. And rightly so, to be honest with you. Rightly so. I didn't expect you to say that. I know, and I have been watching. My dream as a young kid was to be a bullfighter. It was. I love it, but the day that it goes away, I'll be okay with it. I think the time has come. How about that? Yeah. And then Telkic, one of the biggest fans. I sit 5 feet away from the bulls. But then, again, not to be hypocritical, but I do see the point of this coming to an end. Yeah. Well, our time has come to an end, but Bill Rosado, great pleasure being with you and finding out about you and letting everybody else find out, what makes you tick and who you are. An American who's living the American dream and loves it. Thank you very much for having me. Bill, my pleasure. We'll talk to you soon.
Road Scholar Transport is proud to sponsor Camp Freedom, where veterans go to heal and find peace. Go to roadscholar.com/Camp Freedom today and tell our veterans what their sacrifice means to you. Your message may be chosen for display on Road Scholar Transport trailers to be seen by thousands of people. Show our veterans how much you care. Send them your message today. Road Scholar Transport, a higher standard.
Thanks for being part of the program. You've got an appointment every Sunday morning at 11:30 right here on WNEP TV. The Bob Cordaro Show on TV.
They fought for us, now he'll fight for you. The pursuit of justice and liberty. It's the Bob Cordaro Show on TV.